In this video, I'm going to show you 7 deck lists for Shadows of the Galaxy Set 2 of Star Wars Unlimited. 4 of those are going to be double aspect decks for each of the 4 aspects. A few of the ideas are just full on my ideas, and other ones have obviously been taken from other things people have developed. I mean, one of these is, yeah, it's Cunning Boba Fett. So like there's not too much you can do there. It's pretty optimized, but there's new cards in all of these decks, and most of them are brand new leaders. So let's get into it. Card gamers, you're not gonna guess this, but this video is sponsored by Oasis Games, SLC.com. Make sure you visit OasisGamesSLC.com to get whatever you need for your TCGs. And don't forget to check out their calendar. They have an awesome event calendar. It shows it for all the games on there. And if you want to play Star Wars Unlimited, it happens at 7 p.m. on Wednesday nights. I'm going to be there this Wednesday, the 17th. Come and play. Thanks Oasis for sponsoring the video. All right, first we've got Discard Ray. I showed some gameplay video of basically this deck, and most of this deck was taken from Thork's Hot Takes, a video he did for about 6 decks for Shadows of the Galaxy recently, and it's mostly unchanged. Let's look at the, you can screenshot this right here if you like. I know that one change that I did is, I think originally I was playing 3 Sabine, and I was playing a Mace Windu, and then 0 Crate Dragons, but I decided to just put the Crate Dragons in. Yeah, because Crate Dragon's pretty crazy. This deck plays excellently. It feels really good. Open Fire and Takedown and Rival's Fall as some removal options, as well as Daring Raid to finish off anything. And the Daring Raid and Tarkintown work really well with you just buffing your 1 and 2 power units up a little bit, but while they have big HP amounts, and then you can hit them into your opponent's units, and both of the units survive, but then oftentimes you just can pay 1 resource for Daring Raid to finish them off. Feels really good. I also just really like Regional Governor in here, being able to buff Regional Governor up to make it so she just keeps your opponent from playing whatever card that is that you're stopping them from playing. We've got the good spaceships up here, and Concord Dawn Interceptors is awesome, of course. I don't really have to explain all of this, right? And then Yoda, Kanan, Obi-Wan, and Luke Skywalker for Force units to be able to use with Force Throw. Of course, Rey is a Force leader as well. Redemption can, I mean, it's awesome if you need to Force Throw something yourself to guarantee a kill on something. And it can heal you, and it's good against Fire Spray. Obviously, K2 at 3 is insane. Every Red Heroism deck plays 3 K2s because that's the rules. I also like discarding cards out of my opponent's hand. That's why I'm a big fan of this deck as well. Pillage and Force Throw are awesome. And Poe's in here. Honestly, Poe and Crate Dragon probably don't need to be in here. Crate Dragon's a really great finisher, but you could probably do without Poe. You don't have Energy Conversion Lab to ambush him in. You don't have Timely Intervention to ambush him in. But a 6/6 for 5 resources is pretty good, and there's no other 5-drop in here, but that's fine because you can play a 4-drop and then use a Rey buff or something. So yeah, and Rey's crazy in here. A lot of the games that I've played with this, in the mid game, like basically like after Rey comes out, like they have 0 damage on their base. Sometimes it's crazy. All right, next one. This one is Old Han Green DJ Tech. This is an experiment here, but it's a combo that I really wanted to optimize. And the combo is that I want to play DJ for cheaper than his smuggle cost, because his smuggle cost is 7 double cunning and it says when played using smuggle, take control of an enemy resource. When this unit leaves play, the resource's owner takes control of it. So what you can do with Han is, you'll see up here, Han says at the start of the next action phase, defeat a resource you control. It doesn't care if it is a resource that is owned by the opponent, but you control it. So if you use DJ to take your opponent's resource, and you also ramped with Han that turn, then the next turn, as long as DJ hasn't died by then, you can just defeat the resource you stole from your opponent, and then your opponent just will never get that back after they kill DJ. Now you'll notice I'm not playing Cunning Han, and that's because I'm trying to cheat harder. I don't want to pay 7 to play DJ. I want to pay 5. So our plan is to use tech to give him an even cheaper smuggle cost, because tech just says each friendly resource gains smuggle. The gained smuggle cost is the card's cost plus 2 and its aspect icons. So it would make DJ just a 5 cost cunning smuggle, just single cunning. And so the goal is, and the other thing too is, the thing about this list too is it's probably not optimal for me to play Omega, honestly, but I want to do this combo so bad. So we've got Omega in here to increase the chances. So the goal is, turn 1, we play Omega to search for tech. And then, we get tech. Or if we already have tech in our hand and DJ in hand, we're good to go. Do whatever you want. Then on turn 2, we play tech. Then on turn 4, we have 4 resources. We use Han's leader side to put another resource down to go to 5 resources, and then we just make sure that we have a DJ down in there in the resource zone. Then you smuggle DJ out for 5 cost, and then you take your opponent's resource, and now you have 6 resources, so then you get to deploy Han and attack with Han, and then you have 2 more resources to use, maybe. You can play a 2-drop. Probably at least get to play a Greedo, maybe. But regardless, you got to deploy your leader on the 3rd turn, and your opponent now has 3 resources. It's crazy. So that's my goal here with this list. Here's the rest of the list if you want to take a screenshot of this. The side deck isn't real, by the way. In all of these lists, I believe all of these sideboards should be not real. They're just other cards that I had considered while deck building, so I just moved them to the side temporarily. We've got Resupply and Spark of Hope to do some ramping. We've also got the Marauder here to do some ramping, if you're not familiar with the Marauder. When played, choose a card in your discard pile, put it into play as a resource if it shares a name with a unit you control. The easiest way to guarantee this happens is to, early on, resource a Marauder, and then at some point have used Han's effect to ramp, so then you can defeat the Marauder in your resource zone. So when you play a Marauder, you will just automatically ramp. The other thing you can do is try to plan ahead with that. It's a little bit harder. It's not as straightforward as a lot of other ramp options, obviously like Resupply and Spark of Hope, but just having extra ramp options. It's also a spaceship that has ambush with 4 power, so it's not bad. It's a great Ewing reinforcement target. We're playing 1 bounty hunter crew in here because sometimes you're going to be able to play a Ewing reinforcement and you're going to be able to get a Greedo and a bounty hunter crew off of it. And then when you do that, bounty hunter crew can just add the Ewing reinforcement right back to your hand, which is really awesome. The other thing that we've done in this deck is we've taken the waylays out for Spare the Target. And Spare the Target is basically the same thing, except you can't use it on your own units, but it also lets you collect the bounties of those units. So you can maybe collect some bounties with this alternate waylay. Other than that, most everything else in the deck looks like normal Ewing reinforcement Han stuff. We got 3 home ones, 3 Han Solo. I decided to put 2 of the new Millennium Falcon, or I guess you could call it the young Millennium Falcon, in here, just because it smuggles for its cost, and sometimes you run out of cards a little bit with Han Solo, especially if your opponent is trying to do discard stuff. If you were able to set a new Millennium Falcon earlier in the game, and then on your 6th resource when you're getting ready to deploy Han, your opponent uses pillage or something on you, and now you have no cards in your hand, well, at least you'll still be able to smuggle out a Millennium Falcon from your resource zone. And then we also have qi'ra in here, which lets us look at our opponent's hand, name a card while this unit is in play. Each card that with that name costs 3 more. I believe 3 more. Let's double check here. Yeah. Costs 3 more for your opponents to play. And that, yeah, basically, it's good enough. I mean, it usually means it's as good as discarding that card, basically. So, yeah, really good to get off of U-Wing, too. And that's basically the deck. Nothing super complicated. Yeah, we got a Chewbacca and a Bright Hope Sentinels to pull off of U-Wing, possibly. And the Echo-based Defender down here, we chose 2 of those because we wanted to be able to resurrect it from the discard pile with Home 1 if we needed to protect the ground arena. All right, let's go to the next one. This one is Green Kylo. I also made a deck list about this, I think, over a month ago. Things have changed in the list since then. Quite a few things. And we'll just show you the screenshot now. One of the main things that has changed is Darth Maul has come out, or has been spoiled, and also is out now. And another thing that happened is we've got Mercenary Gunships came out, and I lowered some of the 1-drops because the playing so many of the 1-drops felt a little bit too risky. And what I also did is I put Fifth Brother in here, 3 copies of it, just to increase the chances of being able to use Force Throw early, just in case our opponent kills Kylo really fast. And then I also put Fallen Lightsaber to 3 because I really wanted to maximize my chances of being able to put the Fallen Lightsaber on Kylo, because that can be huge. If you get to do a ramp on turn 2, which deploys Kylo, and then on turn 3 you get to put a gigantic lightsaber on Kylo and attack with him then too, it's pretty crazy. So yeah, one thing you'll notice in here, I only have 1 Kylo's TIE silencer, and then I have 2 mercenary gunships in here. This is mostly just to show you that if you have Kylo's TIE silencers, yeah, play 3 of them. You should play 3 of them. But if you don't, Mercenary Gunship is going to be just as good almost all of the time. So don't let yourself not having Kylo's TIE Silencer prevent you from trying this deck out if you have Mercenary Gunships. So it's worth trying. We've got 2 Punishing 1, 2 Imperial Interceptor in space as well, just to have some units in both arenas. They're solid stats and interactions with space here. I've got a single copy of Remnant Reserves, which it doesn't need to be in here, but I just have it in here. It's a card that lets you search the top 5 cards of your deck for up to 3 units, reveal them, and draw them. And in this deck, you have 37 units, so it's quite a lot. So you're pretty likely to hit all 3, but it's mostly just a card for if you really were able to stay very aggressive early and play out a bunch of 1-drops and deploy Kylo, and then you're now top decking 2 cards each turn, and you don't get to do the insane thing of using a Palpatine's Return to bring something back front that you discarded one of these huge bombs down here. Then it's a card that will let you maybe just draw 3 more units, and then you can keep playing the game and try to keep the steam going. And my ratios here for Darth Vader, Maul, and Palpatine is this. 2 Vader, 2 Maul, 3 Palpatine. And I think it's going to be like that because, especially if you get to use a resupply early on or a super laser tech, it's going to be really insane playing a Palpatine from your discard pile on the 4th turn of the game, because you're going to be able to, if your opponent is not a control deck and they're actually trying to play units and trade with you, you're going to be able to just kill their whole board and have a 6 power unit on the board, and then your units are still going to stay alive. So I think that that is very strong. Something I've also done here is I trimmed 1 Cobb Vanth, and that was actually to increase the number of Palpatines, just because I really wanted to make sure I had one of these gigantic Force units to be able to discard early to play Palpatine's Return on the 5th or 4th turn of the game. And part of that too is there's the dream situation in here too. I turned this into a little bit of a, there's this little combo in here too, is if you have Cobb Vanth on the board already, and you get to use Palpatine's Return to bring out a Maul or a Palpatine, you can then, especially Maul, because Maul will do damage to their base with the Overwhelm. Then after that, you can crash Cobb Vanth into another unit that they have and search for Frontier Shuttle. And then with Frontier Shuttle, it lets you use an action to defeat itself, and then it lets you attack with a unit even if it's exhausted, but it just can't attack bases for that attack. And then you can have Maul attack another unit while he's exhausted. So you get to overwhelm with a 7 power unit twice in the same turn. That's kind of what I'm trying to use Cobb Vanth for here. Otherwise, Cobb Vanth is just gonna get you whatever other 2-drops, a Silencer, a Migs, a Wolf. One of the other 1-drops is totally fine too. Another really neat thing in here is with Reckless Gunslinger, you can set it early, and sometimes when you're spending all of your cards and you need to resource up to 6 if you're planning on using a Palpatine's Return, or at least up to 5, so that when you draw a Palpatine's Return, you can resource the other card and you're good to go. It's really nice being able to set a Reckless Gunslinger, especially if you're top decking. Say you top deck 2 1-drops. You can set the Reckless Gunslinger so you're still getting resources, and then you can play the 1-drop, and then you can just immediately smuggle the Reckless Gunslinger so that you're keeping up your resources to be able to play the Palpatine's Return. That's a very rare situation, but it's possible. Migs is in here. Obviously, we discard stuff on the leader side of Kylo, and it'll go off sometimes. It's a solid turn 1 play, especially if your opponent, plays like a mercenary gunship in space, and you play Migs. Then on the next turn, you can just discard ideally one of these big Force units, and Migs will kill the spaceship, and then you're having a good time. And then Migs has 4 power too, so pretty cool. You've already seen this before. I spent too much time talking about this. Let's go to the next one. All right, we're in the double aspects now. This is Red Space Young Han. This is it's a pretty fun, pretty cool deck. I'll just show you the screenshot first. So one of the first things I want to point out is down here at the end, this 1 Wrecker, 1 Black 1, and 2 Poe Dameron. These ratios are just here to show you what I'm thinking about down here. It's hard to know exactly what we want to do or how much top end we want to get, because you can really turbo out a lot of space units. And it's like, so I impose really good, even though if we don't have ambush, still pretty good unit. Play him up for 4 resources as a 6/4 is really good too. And then having the black 1 to get some fuel. I think I probably still want to play 1 black 1 in here. And Wrecker is, I'm not sure. Probably actually, I don't know. Probably cut Wrecker for a 3rd Poe, maybe. But what's cool about this deck, and don't get discouraged here, okay, is you can actually completely play this without Poe Dameron. And as soon as you do that, this deck is pretty cheap. Like aggression is would be the most expensive card in it, other than, you know, Poe. So you get rid of Poe, and this deck is going to operate just fine too, in my opinion. And so what we've got in here, I really couldn't stay away from it, but the R2-D2 C3PO combo, especially with red Young Han, is so cool because you can play R2-D2 for free to see what's on top of your deck, and then you can play C3PO immediately right there on turn 1 alongside R2-D2 and just draw whatever it is because you know what it is now. And that's just fun. I just love that. We got lots of spaceships too in here. Green Squadron, Alliance X-Wing, Unlicensed Headhunter. This card actually surprised me. I learned my lesson with this card at all of the pre-releases I went to, and that is that it only has the bounty while it's exhausted. And the thing about that is, though, is it tricks your opponents. There's two ways it tricks your opponents. First of all, if they don't read it and realize that it only has it when it's exhausted, you know, they might just immediately kill it, and then they'll be like, cool, I'll heal 5, and then you're like, you don't heal 5, sorry, it has to be exhausted. And then even if you're cool with it and they're like, oh, can I take that back? You let them take it back, you know. Then they're in this mind game where for some reason they're gonna try to wait to kill it when it's exhausted. But what that ends up doing is oftentimes you can set the board up so that by the time they do that, this attacked the base 3 times. And so if they heal for 5, it's like, yeah, sure. I still did 4 damage to your base with this card, and that's good. That's still a good thing to do. So I think the card's good. Gray Squadron Y-Wing. It's, you know, usually not that insane of a card, but imagine playing it for 1 resource. It's not bad. And what's really cool too is I think the thing that usually makes this card not that great is you have ground units, and we have a couple here. We have C3PO, R2-D2, Freedom Fighters, Cassian, Bo-Katan, you know, K2, Poe, but not as much as we normally do in a normal deck. And so what usually makes the Gray Squadron not as good is you attack with the Gray Squadron, they just let their unit on the ground take damage that was gonna die anyways because it's gonna attack in and trade with your other unit. So it just doesn't matter. They're like, your 4 power unit's gonna kill my guy anyways. Yeah, I'll have the 2 damage go to my ground unit over here. That's cool. And then I'll just, you know, smash it into your other guy, kill your other guy, and then the 2 damage basically didn't exist. That's what ends up happening a decent amount of the time. But in this deck, you have a lot of space units, so if it hits their ground units, it'll eventually kill their ground units. And then another thing that's cool is with Red Han, just the effect of playing the cards for cheaper allows you to turn Karabast into a 2 resource, 3 damage event. They can do it to any unit, a leader, a space unit, whatever. And 2 resources to do 3 damage is pretty good. It's pretty good, especially when it's basically going to be always active. And sometimes it can be bigger damage, right? So it's pretty good. You use this to clean up the ground arena if there's something threatening there. And then, you know, just some the standard red heroism damage stuff, Freedom Fighters, Red 3, K2. We got 2 disabling Fang Fighters in here because it's the early times of this meta. We're predicting there's going to be a decent amount of upgrades or shields or bounties. So we're just going to put 2 Fang Fighters in the main deck just to take care of some of that stuff. Even though aggression can take care of it too. But I think most of the time with aggression, we're going to want to be killing a unit and readying our own unit. So yeah, pretty cool stuff there. We've also got Heroic Resolve in here instead of Heroic Sacrifice. A thing that's cool about this is you can equip it to spaceships. And then the spaceship has the permanent +1/+1, which is really cool. And then you can set up situations where you're attacking with a 3 power red 3 that'll actually hit for 4 because, you know, raid. And then you can do something like aggression, ready it, and kill a unit. And then you could pay 2 and destroy Heroic Resolve to give the red 3 +4 instead. So then the red 3 is going to hit for 7 on that second attack. So it's a pretty cool combination in here. And Bo-Katan Kryze is crazy. Super cool card. Really going to help double red decks, I think. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious, right? You just get 15 damage on a base and you'll get to draw a card. And if there's 15 damage on your base too, draw 2 cards. Crazy. Good stats, you know? So solid stuff here. And then the Desperado Freighter is really cool. It's, I think, a slightly underestimated. If you get to play this for 4 resources and it's a 5/4, that is so good. That can smash into a system patrol craft, kill it, and stay alive. And they both deploy on the same turn, basically. So, pretty cool stuff. Yeah, and 5 power in space is nothing to be scoffed at. You know, just look at Fett's Fire Spray. It's basically Fett's Fire Spray because you get to play it. You can play it 2 turns sooner than you can play Fett's Fire Spray, and it's 5 power in space. So, pretty good stuff. And then also you can smuggle Han. You can smuggle Cassian Andor if you need to. And then, you know, eventually when you smuggle him out, you bring him out, he's ready. Solid stuff. This deck is going to be pretty good. Once again, just a reminder, the top end here of Poe, Black 1, Wrecker, they can be other cards. They could be Guerrilla Attack Pod if you really want to. That's totally fine. You could do Guerrilla Attack Pod, and then you could do a couple other like good ground units that you like. You could probably even think about For a Cause I Believe In if you want to take out the disabling Fang Fighters. The thing is, you've got Aggression, Unlicensed Headhunter, and Bo-Katan that are not heroism, so it might not be super optimal. Or you could just go for the new double red card, Chaos of War. So that does some damage out of hand. So things to think about. All right. Yeah. Boba Cunning. We'll just get this over with pretty quickly. You know what Boba Cunning does most likely, and it's basically the same stuff you've seen before. The notable changes we've gotten here is we have 3 copies of Forlom. We have 2 copies of Zuckuss. Forlom and Zuckuss are awesome. Forlom is good enough himself. If you get to keep Forlom on the board and you get to ambush with Zuckuss, it's so crazy. I not with this deck, but with a different. I got to play my yellow Gar Saxon deck recently, and yeah, I went 4-0 with it. And yeah, there was a turn where my opponent flipped their Mandalorian leader, and I just ambushed Zuckuss in and just killed it because I had Forlom on the board. It's crazy stuff. So we've got that. Bosk is great. Cantina Bouncer, obviously great. We got 3 copies of Waylay because we really want to make sure for the Boba Flip turn that we're able to take advantage of those 3 extra resources we're trying to get. Obviously 3 Bodhi Rook, nothing different here. And then the differences you'll see here is we got 3 McClunky. We've got 2 Dr. Evazan, 2 New Adventure, 2 Toro Calican, the Forlom and Zuckuss like I mentioned before, and then we have 2 Final Showdown in here. I think that if you're playing Final Showdown, you probably play 2 Final Showdown. You probably don't ever play 3 Final Showdown. You just want to see the Final Showdown. So you play 2 copies, I think is the theory. And then Toro is really crazy. Forlom, Bosk, Zuckuss, and Boba Fett are all bounty hunters, as well as Greedo, but you probably wouldn't use Greedo's effect here. But it's really powerful being able to use Toro to attack, and then you can ambush in with one of your awesome bounty hunters, and if they were going to die anyways, you just deal a damage to them to ready Toro again. It's strong stuff. And another thing you can do, it is super crazy, is you could play a Cunning and give Toro +4 power, hit for 7, and then you could play a Greedo for 1 resource, or you could play a Boba Fett unit, and then ready Toro again and hit for 7 again. It's really crazy. Some other things to note here is McClunky is so cool. It is so good. And we're using McClunky to help us dodge Evazan from ever letting our opponent ready 12 resources. I know that people are really scared of playing Dr. Evazan. But the thing is, the goal is you play them early, you hit the base. As soon as your opponent starts putting effort into trying to take him out, then you use McClunky to return him back to the hand, kill something on the ground or in the space, and then you don't have to play Dr. Evazan again. You can just make him a resource next turn. Totally valid play. If after that happens, it's not worth playing it because he'll die, just you get to resource him next turn. It's totally fine. Don't worry about it. Yeah. Nothing else to say here. New adventure. You can return your Fett's Fire Spray and play it again and attack again. You can do that with any of your ambush units. You can do it with Bodhi Rook to discard another thing from them. We're just using it to do some tricks. Try it out. Should be good. The Cartel Spacer, it could be Mercenary Gunship if you want it to, if you want to have a more aggressive stat line. But the Cartel Spacer is just a little bit better at staying alive, and then also can help you win a race by exhausting their unit while you're playing a unit. So there we go. Okay, get ready. We're entering the experimental zone. These next two decks are fully from my mind. Somebody else maybe has thought of these things, but I have drawn inspiration from no one. And I'm pretty excited about them. So this one is called Saxon Chance. It's double blue Gar Saxon. And my goal here was I really just wanted to play the card Second Chance. Especially the hyperspace one. And it says when defeated, the attached unit gets when defeated for this phase, this unit's owner can play it from their discard pile for free. What's cool about, I wish it would have given at least a 1+1/+1, but what's interesting here is Gar Saxon's unit side says that all of your units also get a when defeated, you may return an upgrade that was attached to this unit to its owner's hand. So with Gar Saxon and Second Chance, if you have Gar Saxon out, you can put the Second Chance on a Sentinel unit like Super Commando Squad or Bendu, and then or a Lieutenant Childson, and then when they die, you just have your next action be play them again for free. And Gar Saxon just adds the second chance back to your hand. So then you maybe play the second chance on the unit again. So it's just cute. It's just a little cute thing. I just want to do it. I think it's going to be pretty fun. We'll talk about some more notable choices in here. We've got Protector in here to give a unit Sentinel. This is mostly because with this deck it's kind of hard to find solid 2-drops, and so we've got Follower of the Way in here, and then we've got 2 copies of Mandalorian Warrior to just increase our chances of being able to give an upgrade to the Follower of the Way. That's really the only other. There's that Mandalorian, and then there's the Super Commando Squad that is Mandalorian, surprisingly. And then obviously the leader is Mandalorian. So not a ton of them, but I wanted to put it in here just as the potential curve play of, yeah, play Follower of the Way, play Mandalorian Warrior. It's pretty solid. I also wanted just a couple more Mandalorians because we do have the Darksaber in here. I do have 2 copies of Darksaber in here, and when you play it on a Mandalorian, you ignore the aspect penalty. So we're almost always going to be playing it on Gar Saxon so that he's gigantic, and then he only dies to Rival's Fall, essentially. But, whew, then we'll get to buff a couple Mandalorians, maybe. Who knows? I believe the Clan Saxon Gauntlet is a Mandalorian as well. So you can maybe buff that with the Mandalorian Warrior. Otherwise, we have got Devotion, we've got Mandalorian armor and the dark saber. Those are our only upgrades? Let's see. Oh no, yeah, we've got Protector, Devotion, Mandalorian armor, Second Chance, and then the dark saber. The Mandalorian armor is once again just another option of something to potentially put on Gar Saxon or one of those other Mandalorians. Ideally, the 2-cost one, the Follower of the Way. If we get to do that, it becomes gigantic and just ruins the board arena for your opponent. We've got some space units up here too. We've got Inferno 4. We can put the Protector or Devotion on it, so not terrible. We could put Second Chance on it. We're never doing that. But yeah, Devotion and Protector. Devotion's crazy being able to, I mean, we've seen this in set 1 stuff, right? We can put that on our spaceships, which is pretty solid. Being able to put a Devotion on, or, you know, any buff on these, and then Gar Saxon is also going to give them a power buff as well, so they'll become 4 power or 5 power spaceships. Not terrible. For removal, we've got 2 power of the dark side, we've got 2 takedown, we've got 2 rivals fall, and then we've got 3 vigilance, and we get to pay only 4 for it because we're double blue. Pretty solid stuff here. One thing that's really cool about this is we've got Long Pike, and none of these cards care about your opponent having shields. All of these removal cards we have, they don't care about your opponent having shields. And I've played some Long Pike. It's pretty good. Being able to choose what unit of your opponent's gets the shield, and then you can just shield Long Pike and it survives and just kills whatever it's attacking is so good. And it smuggles for 5. It's really good. You've already heard this from some other people, I'm sure. It's a good card. Super Commando Squad, it comes in shielded, and then while it's upgraded, it has Sentinel. You can also put the Mandalorian armor on this too, give it another shield, make it a 6/7 Sentinel. Pretty solid stuff. One thing we also really like about our Sentinels in this deck is with their upgrades, they become 5 power, and then that prevents them from getting waylaid, or not waylaid, that prevents them from getting cunninged. One of the worst things that's ever happened to a blue player is they play Obi-Wan for 6 resources, and then the double yellow player plays cunning and bounces that back to their hand and exhausts their other units, and then they lose the game. Fortunately, that will happen much less often in this deck because we'll be able to have upgrades on our Sentinels, and they'll have 5 power. They'll have more power. Lieutenant Childson will probably be at least a 5 power. It's going to be good stuff. The Clan Saxon Gauntlet is also a spaceship Sentinel, so we're protecting the space arena there as well. And Bendu, man, possibly the first deck to really ever get to play Bendu. It has Sentinel, and then on attack, your next non-hero, non-villain card you play this turn costs 2 less. You can use this to make your second chance cost just 2 instead, and put the second chance on Bendu. Then it's a 5/7. It's pretty good. Yeah, I like it. And then, especially after playing with some Supreme Leader Snoke, I've understood how strong Snoke is. And with this being like a pretty unit-based deck, I don't think we wanted Super Laser Blast. So I put Supreme Leader Snoke in here, being able to push our opponent's power down and health down, and with upgrades and everything, ours is going up. It's gonna be a pretty favorable situation. It's gonna make Vigilance and Takedown be able to kill everything. It's pretty awesome. And then originally I had 2 Cargo Juggernauts in here, but I opted for 2 Avengers just to really have like a finishing card. You know, a card like we've fully stabilized, and something that'll just start the spiral on any other mid-range deck. This could probably be argued as control, but I feel like it would be a pretty soft control with it, not really having a board wipe in it, and then mostly having, you know, a bunch of Sentinels and other stuff like that. So these are my thoughts on this. Whew, we are in it. We're about to go to the last one, and we are almost at the 40-minute mark. If you're listening, you're a legend. You're crazy. All right, this last one. I think I have previewed this in my 18. I might have previewed this in my 18 deck list video, but it's updated. I've actually played with it a little bit. And boy, if I got to tell you that it takes forever to get to 14 resources, even with as much ramp as in this deck, okay? This is the Endless Legions deck, and it's quite possible that a villainy version of this with Emperor Palpatine or just whatever other villainy leader might be more realistic, might be more consistent, but I really like the Spark of Hope ramp. I really like the Marauder ramp, and those are exclusive to heroism. So I wanted to do it here. And with this, I chose to use Hunter as the leader. There's not very many good heroism green leaders. We could probably do the heroism Boba Fett leader, but Hunter has an interesting interaction with this because we need to be ramping like as many turns as we can. What that ends up doing is you actually end up with very low cards in your hand or no cards in your hand. And Hunter lets you basically draw a card, because if you have a unique unit on the board and you have that same one in your resource row, you can just pay one, pick the one up off of your resource row, put the top card of your deck into play as a resource. So you keep your resources, but you get to draw that card. Now, you have a unique on the board. You can't play that unique now, but you know, you could trade your unique that's on the board in, and then you can play the one you just drew basically from your resource zone. That's how that would work. We've got R2-D2 and C-3PO in here, and that's also, once again, for two reasons. They help us draw cards. They help us cycle cards. We need to get to the cards we need faster, and we need to draw cards because we have to ramp. The other thing is they're uniques. They're cheap uniques too, that we can play early and possibly even resource early, and we can keep looping them with Hunter, drawing them from our resource zone. And then the Marauder will do the same thing. I explained this earlier in the Old Han DJ Tech section of this video. Yeah, the Marauder will ramp as well. This deck, it's a little bit harder for the Marauder to ramp because you don't have control of getting your resources defeated, so it really is reliant on your units dying. Fortunately, it doesn't care if they're unique or not. So in some situations, you know, you're gonna, if you had an R2-D2 already, you might keep an R2-D2 in your hand so that the one can die, and then when the Marauder is going to come out, you can play the cheap R2-D2, ambush the Marauder in, and then resource the defeated R2-D2 so that you can ramp up. We've got the Artequin's Assault Cruiser that ramps us as well. It has ambush, 7 power. And what I did is I lowered Enterprising Lackeys to 1 because you didn't need multiple. Once you have 1, you're fine. And I really wanted to increase the uniques and the 3-ofs. It really matters having 3-ofs of uniques if you can. So I went to 3 Bright Hope and 3 Agent Callus so that we can really get the Marauder and Hunter effects as often as possible. And also Callus is an ambush unit and says when another unique is defeated, you get to draw a card. So it's pretty useful for our deck. Those are the main changes. And if you haven't seen this before, it's to set up the combo. You'll notice a couple out of aspects. We've got 1 Redemption, we've got 1 Bodhi Rook, we got 1 Regional Governor, and then 2 Relentless. Those are cards that when you draw them, you're basically guaranteed resourcing them. Unless there was one time where I already had like 12 resources or something, and I had a Relentless already set, and I drew the second Relentless, and so I just played that Relentless that turn just to already get it on board for 11 resources. So there's rare situations you might do that. We also, the other change we did is we took Cobb Vanth out. Rest in peace, Cobb. I'm so sorry. And we put in this Sindari Peacekeeper because it has Restore 2, and it also has a big HP number. We need to stay alive versus faster decks. we need as much restore as possible, and the Sundari Peacekeeper helps us do that. Obviously, yeah, U-Wing reinforcement as well, do U-Wing things, and, you know, eventually you get to 14 resources and then just win the game with Endless Legions. That's basically it. You get to turn off the first event they play each turn, you get to look at their hand, discard their best event, most powerful event, and then since you looked at your hand, you get to call whatever the next best card is that they have in their hand and say, no, you can't play that card. And also the redemption is like, yep, and also I'm a sentinel in space, and I also just healed all the damage off the base, so we're definitely staying alive, rest in peace. So that is the deck. Whoo, we got all the way through it. Wow. Thank you so much for watching this video. You're a legend. I really appreciate you. Seriously. I can't believe you made it here. Leave a comment that says 4520. And wow. You're awesome. Thanks again. See you in the next video.